Julie Hyman joining us now with some of the highlights, starting with Warren Buffett.
Yes, Buffett was busy apparently during this period. So I'm going to go kind of on a different list here. One of the more interesting moves he made was buying some Monsanto shares. And the reason that's interesting is because we think of Buffett as sort of a long-term investor, but he actually bought Monsanto after Bayer agreed to purchase Monsanto. So it looks more like a merger arbitrage play, which is, again, unusual for him to do. It's about 8 million shares. It's valued at more than $800 million. One analyst says, we assume he's betting the deal's going to go through and that's what he's betting on in this particular case. So those shares are up a little bit in the pre-market. Deere is down. He
it's hard to imagine Warren Buffett is a merger arb.
Right, exactly. That's why it's sort of a surprising thing. Brooke Sutherland of Gadfly has a piece out on that today.
Other folks, though, playing around with investment
ideas.
ideas.
No, that's right. It's not just Warren.
Changing,
that's right.
Right, exactly. He does have other people. That's right. He's got Ted Wessler and Todd Combs who are on board as well. So Deere, he exited that stake. That's why you saw those shares trading lower. 21 million shares is what he had of Deere. And Southwest, as he's doubling down on the airlines. Southwest is a new position within the airlines. This is something that he announced back in November, that he was buying the airlines, but the Southwest stake is a new one. And then he also increased his stakes in American, in Delta, and United Continental, more than $2 billion in stakes in each of those companies, and now Southwest about $2.2 billion. And, what's funny is he's made some really disparaging comments about airline investing in the past.
Yeah, no, he's been very critical of the airline industry.
But we've seen that the airlines do relatively well since the election. I mean, a lot of things have done relatively well since the election, but we've seen a lift in the airlines. Apparently, Doug Parker, who's one of the airline CEOs, made the pitch to him, American CEO Doug Parker, and that's kind of what sold him on this airline story at a time when we have been seeing still some sort of rockiness for the airline industry.
Historically, it's been a boom and bust industry. What happens is they make some money, so they go out and buy a lot of airplanes, sink a lot of money into it, and then they have too much capacity, and the fares go down, and they lose money.
Yes, they don't have a good history of capacity discipline.
Exactly, but maybe they've gotten to such a level of concentration now. They've got so much consolidation going on, maybe they can control that.
That's the theory anyway, on the airlines.
Well, and they've gotten very good at charging you for everything, right?
Boy, that's for sure.
And
that's true
it's
also.
a better mathematical model.
I want to talk about P&G also because Procter & Gamble, Trion Fund Management, Nelson Peltz's company, took a stake there. It's not a huge stake. It's $539.5 million. That's only about 0.25%. If you look at HDS on the Bloomberg, which gives you the top holders. But because he is sometimes known as an activist, it's something that it looks like it's boosting the shares.
If you were the CEO of P&G, you'd take the call from Nelson Peltz.
Yes. What's interesting with P&G is it's already been making a lot of moves, right? So it'll be interesting to see if Trion does weigh in more vocally to see if it can consolidate further, but it's done a lot of reorganization within the company already.
They had a new CEO, right, come in, a year or so ago. Can I talk about Apple?
Yes, Apple, Buffett buying there as well, tripling his holding, 61 million shares now is what he holds. Manulife also was the number 2 buyer, doubling its stake. Tiger Global, Mizuho, Maverick selling their holdings. I mean, you always have people sort of moving around in Apple, right? This looks at Apple since Berkshire first took a stake.
Yeah, he's made a couple of shekels there over there.
Yeah. Well, he's a pretty good investor. He's not bad. But Apple, of course, closed at a record yesterday. So that's the other big story there. Bank of America, if you look across all the holdings, was the company single-handedly that saw the biggest increase in investment from these money managers. Not shocking given the rally that we have seen in banks based on not just yields going higher, but this thesis that we'll see decreased regulation.
Deregulation and rates.
And fueling the momentum in the financial space.